Hey folks, welcome to Hughes History. I'm going to throw you a curveball. We're not going to do a history lecture. We're going to do what I like to call political talk, the American sport. I'm not going to pop up. I'm not going to pop down. I'm not going to find unique ways to play nostalgic TV theme music unless I want to. But what I do want to do is just have this kind of political talk, more to get it out of my head, and then really see if we can't have that discussion down below. And here is the question I pose to you. Should the Democratic Party reach across the aisle to work with Republicans or Trump in this new Trump era? And I want to talk about kind of the positives of doing that, what's the pro side, and then we'll look at the negatives as well. But I do think it's important to draw a little context. I do this in my history lectures. And you really have to look at the Republican Party as a whole and kind of their coalition or the lacking of a coalition. In order to be a strong political party, you need a strong coalition. And we can throw rocks at Democrats and rocks at Republicans. I can even throw a rock at you. But we can also probably say good things about both parties. And what we can say about Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats is they had a strong coalition, at least for a little while, at least when they passed Obamacare. And the Republicans didn't have that in this current day situation. And that's because they have a fraction of their majority, about 30 congresspeople, congresswomen, congressmen, out of their about 237 that are diehard conservatives. They like to drink tea. We like to call them the Freedom Caucus. And, that was the energy that put Republicans in power in 2010, kind of this backlash to Obama and Obamacare, this grassroots, it's artificial turf, it's grassroots, whatever it was. It allowed the Republicans to win in 2010. But they ran on this idea, at least the Tea Party Republicans, that we're going to oppose mechanisms that grow the government, whether that's Obama or that's Republicans. We're not going to continue to grow government. We need to cut the deficit, get back to our roots, a limited government, give states the power. Oh, say, can you see? There's 30 of them. There's also about 50 moderate Republicans, and we saw them balk at the health care bill as well, and they're kind of on the other side of the ideological fence within that tent of the Republican Party. They're willing to compromise. They believe in some progressive things. They at least believe in the progressive ideas of the past, like Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, and they can't go back to their constituents and sell a conservative deal like a complete repeal of Obamacare. But the majority of Republicans, would be that coalition that stuck together. These are regular Republicans, some conservative, some maybe not as conservative, but they need either all those moderates to be with them, that pack of Republicans, or they need the Freedom Caucus. But if they get the Freedom Caucus, they don't get any Democrats. But if they get the moderates, if they go that way, maybe there's a chance that they can cross over and take a couple Democrats to get to that magic number 218. Might be 215 because I think that there's some holes in Congress right now. But let's talk a little bit about the just say no camp, the people that say, no way, Democrats should not reach across the aisle. That isn't the best idea. And really, I think that their first sales pitch is going to be, it so worked for the Republicans. So worked for the Republicans. If you remember in 2008, when President Obama was elected, there was actually this big meeting in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Night with Mitch McConnell and Newt Gingrich and Bonner, I think, was there, the leaders delay maybe of the Republican Party, and they came up with this plan that the best plan was just say no. So if Obama was like, I want health care, no. I want to do something with tax, no. Infrastructure, no. And it worked. It basically stopped the president from doing anything legislatively, at least when they got the majority in 2010, and that allowed them to say, he's not solving problems, he's not fixing things. And part of that, at least Democrats would say, that is because Republicans basically threw, glass on the floor in front of the president and didn't allow him to do anything. But of course, Republicans would say that's the opposition party, that's what they're supposed to do. But Democrats would say that's what we should do with Trump. We owe him no favors. We owe the Republicans no favors. As a political party, our job is to get a majority, and the best way to do that is to see the current administration fail and then get a majority in 2020 and move on from there. So The other argument is that it's just politically a negative with their base. It goes kind of the voting and winning the majority idea. But if they start crossing the aisle, kind of those Bernie Sanders Democrats, those progressive liberals that are in the resistance, hashtag the resistance, they're not going to go for that at all. They're probably going to go float towards a third party and possibly divide the Democrats as the Democrats try to move forward with a united coalition. So that could be possibly a problem for them. The third argument for not working with the Republicans and Trump is that there are Democrats that say he just beat cray-cray, that you can't trust this guy, that he tweets mad things and that he changes his mind on the flip of a dime. And this isn't the partner that you need to work with because you can't trust him. So if we strike a deal with him, how do we know he's not bringing a knife to the balloon party at the end? I made that up. Knife, balloon party. It makes no sense, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then, they would also probably say that you can't work with him because he's under FBI investigation. And that needs to be the first thing in terms of the Republic. Whether or not Trump or Trump surrogates were working with Russia, some people have brought up the word treason, and of course Republicans, and maybe with good arguments, would say that's ridiculous. But if that's in the sphere of what's being talked about, maybe not a good idea to work with him. So that's basically the arguments, and really I think it kind of boils down to is that it's the job of a party to win elections, and to do that, can't be crossing over to the other side and, eroding your base, the people that got you to be where you need to be or where you want to be, because they're not where they need to be. Now, let's talk about the argument about working with Trump. And I think that the first argument is really an argument that, that's their job. Their job isn't to be party politicians and make the Democratic Party look good or do better. Their job is to solve problems. And if that means, sticking your hand in the soggy, hole in order to do it, I think Trump was the soggy hole in this analogy, that's what you need to do. And they would certainly argue that there are ways to do that because Trump isn't an ordinary Republican. And remember, there are 50 Republican moderates that are probably willing to cross over to show kind of the people in their swing district that they're willing to compromise, they're willing to get things done, and that'll make their jobs more stable. There are some issues that Trump, at least in the past, has talked about in a democratic-y way. I don't know if democratic-y is a word, but it is for this lecture. This isn't a lecture, but certainly infrastructure. That's something Obama tried to do and the Republicans blocked him. But what if the Democrats came over to those 50 moderates and said, we can do this. We can get an infrastructure bill and get Americans back to work and improve our transportation systems and our energy grids and all of that good stuff to make the economy move even faster. That could be done. And certainly, I don't think I've ever met a Democrat that said Obamacare was perfect. So working on things like the exchanges. President Trump in the past has talked about the idea of a public option as not being the worst idea ever in order to get more, at least artificial competition into the exchanges to drive some of those rates down for people that don't have employer-backed insurance. But now I'm falling into the pit of details. Let's not do that. Certainly Democrats, at least old-time Democrats, aren't a big fan of policies like NAFTA that President Clinton kind of wrapped his arms around. Traditionally Democrats were the ones that were a little bit more protectionism, a little bit about manufacturing more, a little bit about the blue-collar worker. And considering that's the demographic that the Democrats lost the election to, at least in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan, moving on an issue like trade, that would probably be good for the Democratic Party. The point is, this could be a political positive thing. And it could be politically possible because there's 1/3 of the nation that don't subscribe to being a Republican or a Democrat. These are people that are just people being independent. And those people, their main kind of thought about government is do your job, get something done. Make government make my life a little bit easier so I can go to work and feed my family and have good insurance and, die one day with some dignity. That was a little bit sad, Mr. Hughes. But definitely, if the Democrats kind of show that they're above politics, that they're ready to cross the line and strike a deal, if that can be done, that would probably do them well in terms of getting a lot of those independent votes. And the last thing is, going back to Russia, because I haven't met a Democrat that doesn't want to investigate Russia, walk and chew gum same time. Right? We can investigate the president and at the same time work to get good public policy, because they would say, again, country before party. There are people with real problems, and if Democrats believe the government is there to solve problems, that maybe they should do that no matter how uncomfortable it is, dancing with the ugly person at the dance, if you know what I mean. So what do you think, guys? Leave it down in the comments below. Let's have a good discussion. And, if you want to throw grenades, you're allowed to throw grenades. It's America. Throw a grenade. But certainly I think that having better dialogue, smarter dialogue is probably the fix for a lot of our problems. So let's see if we can't do that without our heads blowing up. Boom! So let's see if we can have some good dialogue down below. That would be great. And if you haven't subscribed, my head's going boom. It's time to do that because it's the right thing to do. And check out the video arsenal. Go through the playlist. We have 440 videos. You can grow your brain anytime you want to. And make sure you share and you like and you do that sort of social media thing, because that's the best thing that anybody can do for my channel. Won't you be my friend? All right, guys, I'm going to say it because I mean it with all my heart, and I say it at the end of every video, and I'm going to say it right now. Where attention goes, energy flows. We'll see you guys next time you press my buttons.